Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
2024 was an interesting year for Toronto's new mayor, to say the least. Amid an affordability crisis, Olivia Chow tabling her first budget as mayor, which included a record-high property tax hike. There's also the ongoing battle over bike lanes with the Premier of Ontario, which she insists has not fractured their unlikely friendship.
The relationship is good. Remember, we continue to cooperate.
And how is the current drama on Parliament Hill impacting cities across the country, like Toronto? I'm Momin Qureshi. Today on The Big Story, I sit down for a one-on-one conversation with the mayor of Canada's largest city to take a look back at the year that was and what to expect in the year to come. So Mayor Chow, we had this conversation a year ago, and at that time, you were only on the job for a few months. You still hadn't gone through your first budget process. You had accomplished a few big things. The new deal with the province had already been struck, but the city had a lot of issues looking forward when we're talking about homelessness, the issue with refugees and shelter spaces. There was issues with transit and housing. You're still waiting on some money to come through from the federal government. So you had some pretty significant challenges that lay ahead there. So I'm just, before we get to kind of the nitty-gritty of what happened in 2024, I'm wondering what your perspective is from when we had this conversation last year to now. How do you think it's gone, and how do you think kind of what you were up against there has changed in the last 12 months?
Mm-hmm. Well, in the last 12 months, I had the honor to really connect with a lot of Torontonians. Time's a bit tough out there. Life is not always affordable, which is why I'm building housing as fast as I can, and also making sure some of them are really affordable. And that has given me a lot of joy. Watching a woman moving into her new apartment over at Riverdale Co-op, talking to her and how happy she is that she's now finally have a new home is just a total delight. And I get it. Times are not as easy as it could be.
When you look back at the last 12 months, is there anything that you kind of wish you could do over, or that do you have any regrets, or you would do any differently?
No regrets. I love my job, and what excites me most, and I still remember it, is going into a school in Marcano, watching the kids making food, growing the food, serving the food, and we are going to be able to feed more kids this coming year. Being able to experience how Torontonians come together to help each other, no matter how old or young, it really gives you a sense that people care about their city. Those taste of everything everywhere in the summer was fabulous, because you see people having so much time, feeling they belong, feeling safe, feeling good about where they live in their neighborhood, their communities.
One of the big things that you did this year kind of happened right off the top, which was the budget, which came with a record high property tax hike. We know that now more than ever, we're living in a time where it's affordability is a big problem, not only in the city, across the country. Everything seemingly is more expensive. But you made that, what I assume is very difficult decision to raise the property taxes at a high level after 8 years of it not budging above the rate of inflation. When you look back on that decision, do you still kind of believe it's the right one? And why did you feel it was necessary to make that move, given how expensive things are right now in the city of Toronto?
Well, I inherited a big budget deficit, a big budget hole, pit, whatever name you can, shortfall of $1.8 billion. If we don't pay, it will just increase. We'll pay the interest. Interest rate is high. So one way or another, we have to pay, right? Because I inherited that, but I'm not going to fire police officers or hike TTC fares. That makes life even more unaffordable, right? So, and not build housing or shelters, but that doesn't work. So those are the three biggest budget items. So we are building more housing, feeding kids, and providing better services at TDC, or more buses anyway. And ordering the new subway cars, right? We finally got the new 55 subway cars. We have to pay for those things. We can't just go and say we'll spend the money and worried about later. That's not my style. Yes, it is hard, but I'm doing everything I can to make life affordable. The library is free. There's so much to do in there. Now they're open 7 days, right? So um, we we are helping folks. Now, remember, only 52% of the people, well, actually, less than half of Torontonians have homes. The other half are renters. Renters, they see no increase because we set the rate in a way that anyone that's renting don't have to pay. So the other half, it is a bit tough. But for the seniors, for low income folks, they don't have to pay the increase. They can apply. We can accept them. We defer their increase, so it should be better.
It's very unlikely that it was a one and done. I don't think there was a one-time fix of just putting the property taxes up to 9.5%. So we're heading back into budget season here. We're already in the process. What's up for 2025? Do you anticipate another significant property tax jump here to try to help fill some of the gaps? Because as much as raising it last year helped in getting some of the funding from the feds in the province, still a lot of things that need to be fixed and addressed here in the city. So where are we going to be at with property taxes early in the new year?
Oh, yes, true. Some of the roofs is still leaking. The subways is having track problems, signal problems. We need to continue to upgrade and fix our old infrastructure. That just has to be done, or else our city won't move. And we need to continue to build housing. The TDC, for example, needs funding. Police just got funding because we need to continue to hire officers. We finally have a plan. We need officers to keep out on the street doing foot patrol, doing community neighborhood stuff, to do crime prevention. All of that is important. Now we have a plan, stable funding. But that increase itself is 1%. And then the salary increase for the police, for the inside workers, it's a lot of folks that works for the city are saying, hey, we too need to be able to afford to live in the city. So they are bargaining right now, and we put aside funds to support the bargaining, what the outcome might be. So all of it's going to add up. We're still trying to find some savings. We'll have a final presentation at the Staffwood in January 13th.
But should people who live in the city who are taxpayers expect a reasonable property tax hike here this year?
We'll see what it would be, but we understand how life is not necessarily always affordable, which is why we're looking at ways. In the past, we say that those that have houses that are $10 million when they sell it and when they buy a new one, that we would ask them to pay a bit more. Those that are leaving their homes or their apartments empty because they're speculators in the middle of a housing crisis, we're going to ask them to pay more. So we're taking those money to try to keep, to balance the budget in many ways, so that only if we exhaust all of that kind of income revenue would we say, yeah, we have to find some ways to pay for it.
This is not an issue that's unique to Toronto. Affordability and unaffordability really seems to be a problem coast to coast to coast. I know food and nutrition programs are big with you. We've seen reports from the Daily Bread Food Bank and other food banks that their user base or the need for them has gone up by hundreds of percents. I think the percentage for the Daily Bread Food Bank is something like they have 400 to 500% pre-pandemic to now. So when you look at things like property taxes or like finding sources of revenue, because the city's, got these huge budget problems and things, how do you balance that out between trying to find that revenue to give the people of the city what they need, but understanding that people are really having a hard time making ends meet right now?
Mm-hmm. Well, we do that by listening a lot. We've opened up City Hall. We've spoken to hundreds and hundreds of people face-to-face all over the city. We have sessions. Thousands have emailed, have responded to say to the city how we could invest their money, what we should be investing in. What we've noticed, people are saying, please invest in housing, building housing faster. That's what we're doing. They're talking about, have a better TDC service, more reliable, more affordable, which is what we're doing. So going out there, talking to people, opening up City Hall's books, and really listening. I think that's how we could navigate, again, a tough budget.
I think undoubtedly one of the things that's changed a lot since we had this conversation last year is you had stuck that new deal with the province, and people were marveling at this relationship that you had with a conservative premier and how you guys had aligned and you're on the same page. The last 12 months seem to have been pretty tumultuous between yourself and the premier when it comes to bike lanes, Ontario Place, other things where the province seems to be bigfooting or overstepping or whatever word or term you want to use. So I guess just in plain, simple terms, how is your relationship with the premier right now? Is it the way it was in 2023, 2024? I'm 2023. I'm getting my years mixed up. I don't know where I am. And has that relationship fractured, or is it tougher to navigate right now? Because there are seemingly more issues between what's happening at Queen's Park and here at City Hall.
Relationship is good. Remember, we continue to cooperate and collaborate in the waterfront, building housing, building shelters, public health. There are so many ways we are working together. The province provide extra funding for us so that we can fast track the rebuilding of the Garner. We are 4 months ahead of schedule. We're going to rebuild that Garner a year ahead of time, right? So if you look at all the connections we've made this year with the provincial and the federal government, we've been at press conferences together, opening up the TDC line, the Ontario line, doing one fare, meaning right now, if you come from Markham, coming down to Toronto, whether you are using GO Train or TTC, is only one fare. That's collaboration. So there are lots of examples where we work together. Now, do we agree with everything? No. On the bike lanes one, yeah. But we're still having conversations because we want to see at the end of the day where it could be a win-win situation where we could save the bike lane, but also add back a car lane, right? So there are many things we are continue to discuss.
But I mean,
I also want to repeat what the premier said. He said, we are stronger together. And I've heard it quite a few times. I totally agree with that. And that's why we continue to connect and work together.
But is it a bit more of a challenge to navigate those waters now, considering that they are making moves that nullifies moves that normally cities are able to make on their own when it comes to things like bike lanes? That's usually a municipal thing, and he's stepping in and pushing that aside. I mean, does that make the waters tougher to navigate here?
We'll agree to disagree. We do need to keep cyclists safe, and this is the year where 6 of them died. We are putting side guards onto big trucks. We hope the province would also do the same. So keeping everyone safe, very important. But also dealing with congestion, I get it, right? So that's why we hired all these traffic agents there directing traffic in busy intersections so no one's blocking the box, the intersection. We are coordinating construction, making the construction time shorter. All of those things we are doing together.
When it comes, just last thing on the bike lanes, where are we at with cost? Is the province going to cover the cost to move them or pull them out, all that stuff, end to end?
Yes.
Have they said that, or this is just you saying that's what you want?
That's what I want, and I expect that would be the case.
Another thing that happened this year was the battle with the police earlier this year. It was quite tumultuous. There was a lot of friction there. This year, that doesn't exist. Is that because you're just kind of pushing back and letting them get their way, or are you just finding that this is kind of the better way to do things?
No, last year, what I noticed after the budget was that there was no plan regarding how many officers they hired every year. So in the previous decade, some years they hire some officers, other years they don't. And as the city grow, because of early retirements, the number of officers have shrunk. So I thought, okay, wait, we need to have a plan, right? So I sent my budget chief onto the police service board. I said, Shirley, your experience, come on, make sure they have a plan, a staffing plan, so everything is predictable, it's stable. Then the chief can then allot the right number of officers in each of the division. If not, how is he going to be able to deploy his officer? So that's why this year and next year is stable funding. No more drama.
Speaking of drama, that's what we call a segue in this business. That was a good one. There's a lot of drama right now in Parliament Hill, a lot of drama happening, not just with the Prime Minister and whether he's going to stay or not, but also what is happening with incoming President Trump and the tariffs. How much of that is a concern for you as the economic center for the country? A lot of business is done through Toronto, but it's also stuff that's kind of out of your hands. You just got to sit back and watch. So how much of a concern is it for you, and what kind of role can you play to try to control a bit of what's happening as the situation plays out?
Well, as there are lots of turmoils up in Parliament Hill, we'll just be calm, carry on, keep delivering the services that Torontonians need, and keep reminding our federal cousins, counterparts, friends up in Ottawa, no matter who they are, whoever's in charge, that partnership is important. We are on the ground delivering the service. We need their continued investment. Without the funds that, whether it's on housing, on transit, on sheltering the refugees arriving to Canada, all of that, without their participation, our service will grind to a complete halt. And that won't work because people need support, right? They expect it. And the buck stops right here at City Hall. So we'll continue to work with whoever's in charge. The one advantage I have is I've been a member of Parliament for 8 years. I know the players there, whether it is Dominic LeBlanc and previously Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, the Prime Minister's office, will just continue to work together no matter who's in charge, because that's our responsibility.
Something, just changing gears here, something that you haven't talked about much. You're entering 2025. Election comes in 2026. I know that seems far away, but usually there's a lot of planning that goes into and the thinking and thought process. So where are you at? I mean, you came in kind of in the strangest way into this job, running in a by-election when everything kind of turned topsy-turvy around here. Where is your thought processes with another term potentially? Are you going to run again? Kind of where is your mindset when it comes to keeping this office?
It is true I'm not supposed to be here. And but what an honor that for me to be the mayor of Toronto. And it seems to really give a lot of local residents hope, right? Because they said, yeah, this mayor gets it, right? And that's important. I have a lot of work to do between now and end of 2026. So I haven't begun to think about elections and all of that. I'm focusing on how many units of housing I can build, how many evictions I could prevent. How can I help the tenants so that their life is better? How many libraries? How many fruits? How many buses do I need to order? So those are things that I'm focusing on every day's needs of the people in Toronto.
So that's not a yes or a no right now.
I don't even know what's going to be the outcome of this next year, 2025. Who is going, because there's going to be a provincial election, there's probably going to be a federal election. Whoa. Let us look at where things land. And what I really want to do is to collaborate and work together. because that's the best way forward.
Well, you brought up the double election next year, so let me ask you, how much do you anticipate that impacting Toronto? We could see a conservative, federal government. We could see another conservative provincial government, or a Liberal could flip. And do you look at this as an opportunity, or will you take this as an opportunity to step up and kind of get what you want or ask for what you want when campaigns are going and promises are being made? Will you try to seize the opportunity to say, hey, this is what I want, let's make it happen?
This is what Torontonians want, right? I will take every opportunity to say to whichever candidates is running, to say, look, we have to feed the kids. We have to make life affordable. We know how to build housing. Look at what we just did. We cut the cost for a city hall cost. We have shortened the approval time. And wow, this is happening. People are excited. They are applying to come and build, except we don't have enough financial capacity to accommodate all of the developers, home builders that wants to build, right? So we do what we can. So I'm going to keep reminding folks that is running that don't forget, right? We have millions of Torontonians that count on them to invest wisely. So absolutely, election is a good opportunity for us to say, here's our agenda, here's what people need. Please do it together.
Thank you so much, Mayor Chow. Appreciate your time, and Happy New Year and good luck in 2025.
And happy holidays to you.
That was my one-on-one conversation with Toronto Mayor Olivia Chow, taking a look back at the ups and downs of 2024 and what to expect in 2025. That was the big story. You can send us feedback on this episode or any other episode by emailing us at hello@thebigstorypodcast.ca or leave us a voicemail at 416-935-5935. You can find us on the Seeker app or on all your favorite podcast players. Please rate, review, follow, and share. I'm Momin Qureshi. Thanks for listening.